How's it going, everyone? My name is Shizukira, and today we are going to be comparing Westmacott, Lilian, and P5 Lilian to see which one is the best for Yuki. Now, first I'm going to give you the TLDR, and then we'll talk about what the rest of the video is about. So, for the TLDR, if you are planning to cut your longsword slash, duplicate one of your prepare to subdues, and grab yourself one of these two epiphanies and probably duplicate them as well, you can argue that going Westmacott is going to be better. And if you only have a base copy Lilian, maybe a Westmacott will be better for you. However, if you have a max duplicate Lilian, even if you were going to do this, max dupe Lilian is going to be better in most situations, and especially so if you plan to take one of these flashes or even the last one here, and if you plan to keep in your longsword slash, and of course we need to consider iceberg cleave as well. Generally speaking, Lilian, especially at P5, is going to be stronger than Westmacott is for Yuki. So when it comes to my pull recommendations for Yuki and Westmacott, talking about Westmacott specifically here, I do not think that she is worth pulling because you will eventually get a P5 Lilian, assuming you don't already have one, which a lot of people do. And that way you get to save your pulls for an upcoming character who hopefully is going to be a bit better than Yuki has turned out to be, and maybe for a future partner that is also better. I already don't really recommend any partner for free-to-play players, but even for people who are paying, I would generally say to avoid Westmacott, especially because if you are paying, you are definitely going to get your hands on a P5 Lilian eventually, who will be stronger. So with that being said, what we're going to be doing in today's video, first I will be explaining how I got these numbers, and I'll be showing you examples in-game to try and prove to you that these numbers are accurate and I'm not just pulling them from thin air. We will then go over these numbers on the right, comparing Westmacott to Lilian and P5 Lilian, and then we'll kind of give a verdict at the end of this video. So if you are just here for the TLDR, there you go. And for those of you who want to have a look at these numbers yourself and want to go through it with me, let's get into it. Now, before we really break down the numbers, I want to show you guys where these numbers are coming from, how I know they're accurate, and all that stuff. So I'm going to give you guys some examples where you can see me changing the numbers here and they reflect what we see in game. So first I want to show off how we are getting the numbers for the cards. So I've highlighted in green the actual numbers that we're going to be looking at. Everything that is not highlighted in green, don't worry about it. We're not going to be applying vulnerable. We're not going to apply any weakness debuffs. None of these are going to be changing. These are just my Yuki's numbers. We've removed all the equipment to keep things equal. The only difference we aren't going to look at is the flat amount we get from our partners, because Westmacott has 97 flat attack at level 50 and Lilian has 87 flat attack at level 50. So we're not using level 60s here, we're using level 50, but even at level 60, all the numbers are going to go up. It's really not going to change a whole lot. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at our deck, and we are going to look at the card Rapid Slash. Now I've compared two different cards here. I've compared Rapid Slash and Longsword Slash. The reason I've done that is because Lilian is based on 1-cost cards, so I wanted to take a 1-cost example and a 2-cost example. It also gives us two different percent numbers that we can work with, so there's that as well. So starting with Rapid Slash, where are we actually getting this 276% damage? Well, to start off, Rapid Slash is 220% at base. We are then getting another 10 from our potential passive, which I will show on screen now. We're then getting another 20% for it being a basic card, and I have that maxed out as well. I'll also show that. We are currently getting no general additions to it, and because we're looking at it in our deck, we're getting no multiplicative additions to it either. And then again, we're not looking at these, and that's going to give us our 276. Now, when we actually take a look in game here, you're going to notice Rapid Slash is at 411%. So where is that 411 coming from? So firstly, this Rapid Slash has actually been drawn using Westmacott's Ego skill. So because of that, we are going to be getting the second part of Westmacott's passive. Sorry, not the second part. We're getting the first part. We're getting this 25%. And this 25% is additive. So we're going to go ahead over here, go to General Add, and add in that 25%. Now, on top of that, it is a card that has an inspiration effect, so it's going to be getting a 10% multiplier to it. So we're going to add in that 10% multiplier as well. Now, we are still not at 411, and the reason why is because we also need to include the inspiration effect itself, which is increasing the damage by 30%, which again is a multiplier. So this 10% becomes 40%, and that's going to give us our 411% damage, which is rounded down in the game, but technically 411.4. Now, if we take a look at this, assuming we don't hit a crit, we are expecting to hit about 369.6 damage. Again, this is going to round to either 369 or 370. Going to go ahead and play this card on the boss. And there we go, 369 damage, exactly as we expected. Now, we're going to take this a step further and play Prepare to Subdue, and we're going to play this with the Epiphany that gives it 20% damage for one turn. So we're going to go ahead and play this, and that's going to draw our Longsword Slash at 203% damage. So again, let's take a look at where that's coming from. So firstly, Longsword Slash is 100% at base, so we're going to go ahead and change that. We again have the first part of Westmacott's passive because we drew a card with our own skill. Our general multiplier is going to be 35%. So 10% is coming from the second part of Westmacott's passive, 5% is going to be coming from the Bullet of Order set since we have one stack after playing the card we just played, and another 20% is then going to come from Prepare to Subdue's Epiphany, which is giving the 20% for those attack cards. So that's how we're getting that 35% multiplier on the card. And you can then see here that our final card percent comes out to 203.2, and again, when we take a look in game, 203 right there. Then again, we can take a look here. According to this, it's meant to get around 182.5 damage. We can use Longsword Slash, and 182 is the number we are going to get out. So if you want to know that these numbers are reliable, hopefully that is enough of a showcase to explain where the numbers are coming from and what the numbers are doing. So then, using that information, I've gone ahead and laid out all the different values here that will help you come to a conclusion on what you would want to use. So firstly, up here, we are looking at Westmacott, and we are comparing the numbers of Longsword Slash with no buff, Rapid Slash with no buff, and then again with the buff on both of these cards. Over here, PTS 20%, we're talking about Prepare to Subdue with the 20% Epiphany that I had shown you just before. Now, of course, no buff isn't possible here because the whole point of the card is that it draws your own card and it forces Westmacott's buff to be active on the card. So, of course, there is no buff option. So then we have the with buff numbers here. So, to no one's surprise, Rapid Slash with the buff is going to hit really hard, and with the extra 20% even harder. Perfect. The second one that we're looking at here is Lilian with no copies, no duplicates, just a base version of Lilian. Now you can see here that when we take a look at Longsword Slash, at 0 stacks, you're not even hitting what a normal Longsword Slash would do, but as long as you can get 1 stack, you are already doing better than you would be with no buff on Westmacott. Now, if you get the buff on Westmacott, then you're going to be just a little bit of damage ahead of what you could be getting on Lilian. Now, the thing you need to consider here is what's easier, playing 3 skill cards on Yuki before attacking, which good luck finding the AP, or pulling a card with Yuki herself when she does have cards that are able to do that. In my opinion, I think when you have both of them with no duplicates, it's going to be better to go for Westmacott. Assuming you already have her, like I said earlier, I wouldn't pull Westmacott because Lilian is close enough, as you can see here. We're talking a 1 damage difference. Now, of course, when we go over to Rapid Slash, we are now losing a bunch of the buff that we are getting from Lilian. At the high end on 3 stacks, we are going to be losing 25% of that buff. We will have 30% instead of 40% at the high end. And you can see that there is a little bit more of a damage gap here, but nothing crazy. Now, things get really interesting when we take a look at a P5 Lilian. So that is the max duplicates you can get on a Lilian. And that is what these numbers down here are. Now, for Longsword Slash, even with no buffs whatsoever, you will have the passive 22%, which is additive, not multiplicative. But even still, just that 22% being added on is going to put it above where a Westmacott would be with no buffs whatsoever. Now, when we look at Rapid Slash, it's a very different story. Rapid Slash is not going to actually be better on Lilian until you have 2 stacks already. And then you can see over here, when we add in the Epiphany for that 20% multiplier, you're going to need at least 1 stack for it to be able to out-damage Westmacott, because of course, again, the buff is forced on when you are using Prepare to Subdue. But as you can see here, it's not by a whole lot. But once you get to those 2 stacks, you do start running away, and even more at 3 stacks. And then again, taking a look at Rapid Slash, it's actually going to take 3 stacks for you to be able to out damage that Westmacott. So what the question really comes down to is, firstly, do you have or are you able to get a P5 Lilian, and are you running a very 1 cost heavy deck? Depending on what kind of deck you run will vary between which one is actually going to be better. If you are running a base version of Flash or you are running the first Epiphany, you are going to get way more damage out of using a P5 Lilian. But in the third one, where you're getting an extra hit, you are going to get a lot more damage out of Westmacott, especially on this one because of that second hit that you're going to be getting. And once again, the same is true for the fourth Epiphany, where you're going to get way more damage with Westmacott. Taking a look at the fifth Epiphany here, it's going to vary because, of course, it is a 3 cost, then it goes down to a 2, then it goes down to a 1 and a 0, so it depends on the speed of battle where this one is going to lie. And of course, for Trickery Strike, you are always going to be on 1 cost, but this also isn't really your damaging ability. Iceberg Cleave is a 1 cost card, so that's something that would always be stronger on a Lilian than it would be with a Westmacott. So then you're asking yourself the question, am I playing more Iceberg Cleave or am I playing more Flash? Now, 2 more things we will take a quick look at before we wrap this up. Firstly is taking in mind Yuki's potentials. So what her potential is going to do is give these first 2 basic cards an inspiration effect. In the case of Longsword Slash, it is going to decrease its cost by 1, but for Rapid Slash, it's going to increase its damage. For that reason, a lot of people tend to cut Longsword Slash, because even though it can be 0 cost, you would rather be drawing, honestly, any other card in Yuki's deck, maybe any other card in your entire deck as a whole. Whereas Rapid Slash is something that some people will keep in. Now, personally, I don't hugely like keeping Rapid Slash in, but some people do. And if you're one of those people who are going to do that, then Westmacott is going to be providing a bigger buff here. And then lastly, of course, a lot of people like to look at Pridwin for their guides and their information and such. And if we take a look at the build they are running here, they do actually choose to keep Longsword Slash in, though they do mention it is something that you can remove if you want to. But outside of that, they are running 2 copies of Flash Slash that will actually make it 0 cost when you pull with Inspiration. So if you're going to be using a deck like the one that Pridwin is suggesting, you actually shouldn't be taking Westmacott here. You really should be taking Lilian, especially if she is P5. Again, if you have a base version of Lilian, it may still be better to go for Westmacott, but if you are going to be using a P5 Lilian, I would definitely recommend using that over Westmacott for a build like this, where her effect is going to be triggering on basically your entire deck, because nothing here is 2 cost or higher. So that is going to wrap it up for today's comparison between these 2 different partners. Ultimately, both of them are really, really good, and you're going to get great results no matter which one you take. Obviously, it's good to know what your partners do so that you can best take advantage of them. And the best TLDR summary that I can give for the rest of this video is, if you run a 1 or 0 cost heavy deck, a Lilian P5 is going to be the best option. If you run a deck with 2 cost cards, then Westmacott is going to be a better option. Ultimately, no matter which one you go for, I would not recommend pulling Westmacott specifically for Yuki. I'd recommend taking Lilian, especially if you are a free-to-play player. I know I've said this a lot, that I don't think free-to-play players should really be pulling on the partner banner, and it was the same with Haru, and it is the same with this as well. So hopefully that's been insightful. If you guys want to see more of this kind of deep dive math content where we compare 2 different things and see which one on average comes out on top, then I'd be happy to do more of these kind of analysis videos. Let me know. But with that being said, I will see all of you very soon. Stay safe.